Dr. Olivia Grant sat alone in the control room of the Lunar Listening Array, staring at screens filled with data from deep space. It was just past 3 a.m. Earth time, and she had been working for 16 hours straight. Her eyes burned from fatigue, but she couldn't bring herself to leave. Something in the patterns had caught her attention, though she couldn't quite identify what. She sipped her cold coffee and grimaced. The lunar base coffee was terrible even when fresh. Now it was practically sludge. The computer terminal in front of her suddenly beeped. Olivia frowned and leaned forward. A new signal was coming through, stronger and more organized than the usual cosmic background noise. "That's odd," she muttered, tapping commands to isolate the transmission. The pattern repeated, a sequence of pulses that couldn't possibly be natural. Her heart rate quickened as she ran it through the analysis software. The computer confirmed what she already suspected. The signal contained mathematical constants, prime numbers, the value of pi. This was no random stellar phenomenon. This was a message. Olivia's hands trembled as she reached for the communication panel. "John," she called to her colleague who was working in the adjacent lab. "John, you need to see this." Dr. John Winters appeared in the doorway moments later, his silver hair disheveled from hours of work. "What is it, Liv?" "I'm in the middle of." "Look," she interrupted, pointing to the screen. "Tell me I'm not hallucinating." John's eyes widened as he studied the data. That's impossible." "Run a verification sequence," Olivia said, her voice barely above a whisper. John's fingers flew across the keyboard. The computer processed for several long seconds before confirming the signal's authenticity. "We need to contact Houston," John said, already reaching for the secure line. Within an hour, the small control room was crowded with every scientist on the lunar base. Within 3 hours, a secure video conference connected them with the top officials from space agencies around the world. "The signal is being transmitted from approximately 40 light-years away," Olivia explained to the assembled faces on the screen. "It began with basic mathematical sequences, but has evolved into something much more complex." "Are you saying it's intelligent?" asked NASA Director Frank Bennett. "Without question," John replied. "We're receiving what appears to be a language primer, similar to how we might teach someone English by showing them objects and naming them." "My God," someone whispered. The UN Secretary General leaned forward. "What are they saying?" Olivia took a deep breath. "The transmission is still being decoded, but the initial parts translate to something like, 'Greetings, Earth. You have been observed and evaluated. The Galactic Council acknowledges your civilization's development.'" The room fell silent. Humanity had wondered for centuries if we were alone in the universe. Now we had our answer, delivered through a simple radio transmission to a lunar outpost. "There's more," Olivia continued. "They're sending coordinates and instructions. They want to meet us." The following days passed in a blur of activity. News of the alien contact spread across Earth, causing both celebration and panic. Religious leaders offered interpretations. Military forces went on high alert. The stock market plummeted, then soared as companies with space technology saw their values skyrocket. Meanwhile, Olivia and her team worked around the clock to decode more of the message. Each new segment revealed more about the Galactic Council, a confederation of species that had been watching Earth for centuries, waiting for humans to reach a certain technological threshold. Now that they were extending an invitation. Send representatives to plead humanity's case for inclusion in their interstellar community. What no one yet understood was that this invitation wasn't merely a diplomatic formality. It was the beginning of humanity's greatest trial. 6 months after the first message from space, the world had changed forever. People looked at the stars differently now, knowing something was looking back. Every major government had formed special departments to handle extraterrestrial affairs. Children played with toys of imagined aliens. Religious groups either embraced the news or declared it a hoax. Through it all, Dr. Olivia Grant and her team continued their work, decoding more messages from the Galactic Council. Each transmission revealed new information about the 17 species that formed this interstellar alliance. "They're sending another transmission," called out Ryan Peters, one of the newer members of the team. Everyone in the command center stopped what they were doing. The message appeared on the main screen, translated by their now sophisticated computer program. "Earth is invited to send 3 representatives to present your case for council membership. Transport will arrive in 60 Earth days at coordinates provided. Choose wisely. Your delegates will determine humanity's place among the stars." The UN Security Council convened an emergency session that lasted 5 days. Arguments broke out about who should represent Earth. Every nation wanted their citizens included. "This isn't about national pride," said President William Foster during a particularly heated debate. "These 3 people will speak for all of us, for every human who has ever lived or will live. We need our best, regardless of where they were born." After weeks of nominations and evaluations, the selection committee made their final decision. The announcement was broadcast simultaneously to every corner of the globe. Dr. Olivia Grant, who had first received the alien message, would represent human scientific achievement. Colonel Daniel Miller, who had led peacekeeping missions across 3 continents, would represent human resilience and courage. And Ambassador Maya Lewis, who had negotiated peace treaties in regions torn by centuries of conflict, would represent human diplomacy and wisdom. The 3 delegates were moved to a special training facility in Switzerland. There, they studied everything known about the Galactic Council and prepared for every possible scenario. "What if they ask about our wars?" Maya wondered during one simulation. "We don't hide them," Daniel replied. "We show how we've learned from them." "And our environmental damage?" Olivia asked. "We show our efforts to fix it," Maya said. "We're not perfect, but we're trying." As the day of arrival approached, millions gathered in places of worship to pray for the mission's success. Others held parties, celebrating what they hoped would be humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage. The alien vessel appeared exactly when promised, materializing in Earth orbit without any detectable approach. It was shaped like a flattened oval, its surface a deep purple-black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. A smaller craft detached and descended to the designated landing zone in the Australian outback. Military forces maintained a wide perimeter, keeping back the crowds of people who had traveled from around the world to witness the historic moment. The 3 delegates stood alone at the center of the landing zone, watching as the alien shuttle touched down silently on the red Earth. Its surface rippled, and an opening appeared. "Remember," Maya said quietly to her companions, "we represent everyone." Daniel nodded, his hand instinctively touching the small pouch around his neck that contained earth from his hometown, water from the Pacific Ocean, and air from the Amazon rainforest, symbolic pieces of their home planet. Olivia took a deep breath. "Let's show them who we are." Together, they walked forward to meet the representatives of the Galactic Council, carrying the hopes and fears of humanity with them into the waiting ship. The alien shuttle closed behind them with a soft hiss. Inside, the 3 human delegates found themselves in a room unlike anything they had seen before. The walls seemed to shift between solid and transparent, giving glimpses of stars one moment and becoming opaque the next. The air felt strangely energizing, as if each breath provided more oxygen than normal. "Welcome, Earth representatives," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The words were in perfect English, though slightly flat in tone. "Please secure yourselves for departure." 3 unusual seats formed from the floor, shaped to support human bodies despite clearly not being designed by humans. Olivia, Daniel, and Maya exchanged glances before carefully sitting down. "How are they speaking English?" Daniel whispered. "Translation technology," Olivia guessed. "They've been studying our communications for decades." A gentle force pressed them into their seats as the shuttle lifted. Through temporarily transparent walls, they watched Earth grow smaller beneath them. The blue oceans, the swirling white clouds, the continents where 7 billion humans were now looking up at the sky and wondering what would happen next. Their shuttle approached the main vessel, which was far larger than it had appeared from Earth. As they docked, Maya fought back unexpected tears. "Are you all right?" Daniel asked. "Just thinking about how many people dreamed of this moment," she replied. "First contact. Visiting the stars. And here we are." The journey began without ceremony. One moment they were in Earth orbit, and the next, the blue planet disappeared as stars streaked past in blurred lines. "Faster than light travel," Olivia whispered in awe. Einstein would be fascinated. Their hosts remained unseen during the first day of travel. Food appeared in a small chamber, nutrient blocks that tasted better than they looked. Water came from a basin that filled and emptied itself. A separate room served as a bathroom, adapting to human needs through what seemed like trial and error. On the second day, they met their first alien. The door, or what they had assumed was a door, rippled, and a being entered. It stood on 2 legs but had 4 upper limbs. Its skin shifted colors like oil on water, and where a human would have a face, it had what looked like a smooth mask with 3 glowing points arranged in a triangle. "I am Verix," the being said, its voice coming through the same translation system they had heard before. "I will prepare you for council space." Over the next several days, Verix taught them basic protocols for meeting the council. The delegates learned that standing too close was considered threatening to some species. Direct eye contact was offensive to others. Certain gestures that were harmless on Earth could be serious insults elsewhere. The Council includes 17 distinct civilizations, Verix explained. Each evolved on different worlds under different conditions. Respect for these differences is the foundation of galactic cooperation. As they traveled, occasional views through the ship's transparent sections revealed sights that took their breath away. A binary star system with planets circling both suns in figure-8 patterns, enormous structures floating in space that Verix identified as habitats for species that preferred vacuum to planetary surfaces, fields of debris that glowed with bioluminescent life, creating cosmic reefs in the emptiness between stars. On the final day of their journey, Verix brought them to an observation room. Ahead, a massive space station orbited between twin suns, one blue, one orange. The station resembled a giant wheel with spokes extending to a central hub. Ships of various designs moved around it like bees around a hive. "The Council Centrum," Verix announced, "the political center of this galactic sector, home to representatives of 17 spacefaring civilizations." The alien skin rippled with changing colors. "And perhaps soon, 18. The humans stood silent before the view, each feeling the weight of what was to come. Earth's future would be decided here, in this alien place, based on how well they could represent all of humanity's potential and all of humanity's flaws. The council chamber far exceeded anything the human delegates had imagined. They entered through tall doors that seemed to be made of living material, following Verix into a vast circular space. The ceiling arched high above them, displaying what looked like a real-time map of the galaxy with pulsing lights marking inhabited systems. "Remember," Maya whispered to her companions, "we observe first, then speak only when addressed." The chamber was designed as a great amphitheater, with 17 raised platforms arranged in a semicircle. Each platform held a different alien delegation, some consisting of single representatives, while others had groups of 3 or 4 beings. Between the physical differences and strange technologies surrounding some of them, it was hard for the humans to tell where some aliens ended and their equipment began. Verix led them to a small platform at the center of the semicircle. "Earth's representatives will remain here," the alien said, then stepped away to join a group of similar beings on one of the raised platforms. A hush fell over the chamber. From the highest platform, a tall, willowy being with skin that shimmered like mother-of-pearl rose and moved forward. Its limbs were impossibly thin, and its head was elongated with no visible eyes, only patterns of light that seemed to flow across its surface. "I am Speaker Elindra," it announced, its words translated into their earpieces, "voice of the Galactic Council and keeper of the Compact." Earth's representatives stand before us today, seeking consideration for inclusion in our alliance. Daniel noted at least 3 species that appeared to be monitoring them with devices he couldn't identify. Olivia observed that different atmospheric conditions seemed to exist around each delegation's platform. Maya focused on reading what body language she could from the more humanoid species. For 10,000 cycles, continued the speaker, this council has maintained peace among the stars. We have shared knowledge, resources, and mutual protection. Admission is not granted lightly. A creature resembling a giant insect with crystalline appendages leaned forward on its platform. Why should we trust humans? Its harsh voice demanded through the translation system. Your history is written in blood. You wage war against your own kind for territory, for resources, for mere ideology. Before the humans could respond, another counselor spoke, this one a gelatinous entity suspended in a floating container. You have nearly destroyed your own world multiple times. Your atmospheric carbon, your nuclear weapons, your biological experiments, all show a dangerous lack of foresight. One by one, the counselors raised concerns. Some seemed genuinely curious, others openly hostile. They mentioned human conflicts, environmental damage, social inequality, and rapid technological development that outpaced ethical constraints. They've been watching us closely, Olivia whispered to her companions. For centuries, probably. Finally, the speaker raised a slender arm, and the chamber fell silent. Earth's representatives may now address these concerns. Maya stepped forward first. With dignity and honesty, she acknowledged humanity's violent history, but spoke of progress toward cooperation and peace. She explained the United Nations, international treaties, and global humanitarian efforts. Daniel followed, describing how humans had stepped back from the brink of nuclear war and were working to reverse environmental damage. He spoke of international cooperation in space, of shared scientific goals that transcended national borders. Olivia concluded their initial presentation by highlighting humanity's scientific achievements and creative potential. She spoke of music, art, literature, and the human drive to explore and understand the universe. Throughout their speeches, the council members watched and listened without interruption. Some made gestures to their companions or entered information into devices. Others remained perfectly still, giving no indication of their thoughts. When the humans finished speaking, the speaker Elindra moved forward again. The council acknowledges your statements. We will now begin our formal evaluation of Earth's candidacy. The enormous doors reopened, and Varix appeared to escort them out. As they left the chamber, the delegates could feel the weight of 17 alien civilizations, judging their species' worthiness to join them among the stars. The evaluation process proved far more intense than the human delegates had anticipated. Each day, they were brought back to the council chamber to face new questions and challenges. It felt less like diplomatic negotiations and more like a trial, with humanity itself in the dock. On the 3rd day, the crystalline insect-like being, who they learned was called Razix of the Ket Collective, presented a series of historical images on large floating screens visible to all in the chamber. Observe. Razix clicked, the translation coming through their earpieces. Your species at war with itself. The screen showed scenes from human conflicts throughout history, ancient battles with swords and spears, World War I bombing raids, modern drone strikes, refugee camps, and crying children. The images were difficult to watch, especially knowing they were being shown to judge humanity's worth. Every 50 of your Earth years, you find new ways to kill each other more efficiently. Razix continued. Why should species who have maintained peace for millennia risk introducing such violence into our coalition? Maya stepped forward. We don't deny our violent past, she said calmly. But please also observe our capacity for healing and reconciliation. She requested permission to share Earth's images. When granted, she showed former enemies becoming allies, international aid workers helping disaster victims, peace treaties being signed, and global cooperation on space stations. Our history contains darkness and light. Maya explained. We learned from both. The next day focused on environmental concerns. A counselor named Thule, whose body appeared to be composed of interlocking plates of living metal, presented satellite imagery of Earth's changing climate, deforestation, and species extinction. You poison the only home you have, Thule said, their voice carrying tones of genuine sadness. How can we trust you with the knowledge of thousands of worlds? Olivia took the lead this time. We made mistakes before we understood the consequences, she admitted. But in recent decades, we've developed renewable energy, replanted forests, cleaned oceans, and saved species from extinction. We're working to repair what we damage. She shared data showing declining carbon emissions, increasing protected wilderness areas, and international environmental agreements. We're learning, she said simply. We want to do better. On the fifth day, a blue-skinned counselor with 4 arms and no visible mouth projected statistics about human society, wealth inequality, discrimination, resource distribution, and political division. Your species lacks cohesion, the counselor observed through some unseen means of communication. Some live in excess while others starve. How can you function as one voice among 17 united civilizations? Daniel stepped forward. We don't claim to have solved all our problems, he said, but we're working toward a more just world. He showed trends of improving human rights, declining global poverty, and increasing cooperation across borders. Our differences make us stronger, he argued. We learn from diverse perspectives. We grow through disagreement and compromise. Throughout these challenging sessions, the delegates noticed subtle shifts in the council's demeanor. Some representatives who initially seemed hostile asked more thoughtful questions. Others who had been silent began to engage more directly. On the 7th day, the delegates returned to find the chamber arranged differently. The platforms had been lowered, creating a more equal setting. Speaker Elindra stood in the center of the chamber, the patterns of light across their face moving in complex sequences. Earth's representatives have defended their species with honesty and dignity, the speaker announced. They have acknowledged flaws without excuse and highlighted virtues without exaggeration. The speaker's form seemed to grow taller, more luminous. Before we render our final decision, the Council has one last question for humanity, perhaps the most important question we ask of any potential member species. The chamber fell absolutely silent. The human delegates stood together, shoulders almost touching, drawing strength from each other as they faced whatever final test awaited them. Speaker Elindra moved to the center of the chamber, the patterns of light flowing across their surface growing brighter. The 17 council members turned toward the human delegates with an intensity that made the air feel heavy. Every civilization reaches a critical point in its development. Elindra began, voice somehow both gentle and powerful through the translation system. A point where technological capacity outpaces ethical frameworks. A point where a species gains the power to destroy itself. The speaker gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing planets with devastated surfaces, some cracked open like broken eggs, others covered in ash clouds. These were once living worlds, the speaker continued, home to species as intelligent and promising as your own. They destroyed themselves when they could not control the powers they discovered. The humans exchanged glances. Earth had come close to such fates more than once. Every species currently represented on this council faced similar crises. Elindra explained. Each found their own path through this dangerous period. Now we come to our final question. The chamber fell so silent that Olivia could hear her own heartbeat. Daniel stood straighter, his military training evident in his posture. Maya took a deep breath, centering herself as she'd done before countless difficult negotiations. If granted membership in the Galactic Council, the speaker said, your species would gain access to technology centuries beyond your current capabilities. Technologies that could transform your world into a paradise or reduce it to ash. Knowledge that could heal your sick and extend your lives, or create weapons that would make your nuclear arsenals seem like children's toys. Elindra's form seemed to shimmer with intensity, Before we entrust you with such knowledge, we must know. How would humanity ensure its own survival? What safeguards would you implement to prevent self-destruction? The human delegates felt the weight of the question. This wasn't about diplomatic skill or scientific achievement. This was about the fundamental nature of humanity itself. Maya looked at her companions. They had prepared for countless scenarios, but nothing quite like this. They had discussed potential questions about Earth's governments, military capabilities, and technological development. But this cut to the heart of what it meant to be human. "May we confer?" she asked the speaker. Elindra nodded, and the three humans huddled together. "They want a detailed plan," Daniel whispered. "Security protocols, oversight committees, international controls." "No," Olivia said suddenly. "I don't think that's it at all. Look at how they asked the question. They said each species found their own path. They're not looking for us to copy someone else's solution." Maya nodded slowly. "They want to know if we understand the real problem." She looked at the council members watching them. "And the real problem isn't technological. It's about who we are as a species." The three delegates straightened and turned back to face the council. By unspoken agreement, they let Maya take the lead. She had spent her career finding common ground between enemies, distilling complex issues to their essence. She stepped forward, her expression calm and determined. Her mind raced through human history, all our triumphs and failures, our moments of greatness, and our darkest hours. She thought about what truly protected us from ourselves when we gained terrible new powers. The entire chamber waited. Some council members leaned forward. Others remained perfectly still. All 17 civilizations waited to hear humanity's answer to the question that would determine our place among the stars. Maya took a final breath, choosing her words with the care of someone who understood exactly what was at stake. Then she opened her mouth to deliver humanity's response. "Together." The single word left Maya's lips and traveled through the vast chamber. For a moment, nothing happened. The council members remained perfectly still, their alien features unreadable to human eyes. Then a ripple of movement spread through the chamber. Some councilors turned to each other. Others made gestures that the humans couldn't interpret. The crystalline being called Razix clicked rapidly in what sounded like agitation or excitement. Maya stood firm, flanked by Olivia and Daniel. She hadn't planned this answer. It had come to her in a moment of clarity, distilling everything she believed about humanity into a single concept. Speaker Elindra's luminous patterns pulsed more rapidly. "Please elaborate," the speaker requested, their tone somehow different than before. Maya nodded. "Throughout human history, our greatest dangers have come when we divided ourselves. By nation, by ideology, by religion, by wealth. Our greatest achievements have come when we united despite our differences." She gestured to her companions. "We three represent different aspects of humanity: science, diplomacy, defense. But we stand here as one." Daniel stepped forward to join her. "We don't claim to have perfect systems or foolproof safeguards," he added. "No technology can protect us from ourselves if we're determined to self-destruct." Olivia completed their united front. "What protects us is connection," she said. "The understanding that we share one world, one future, that we rise or fall as one species." Maya looked directly at the speaker. "And not just together as humans, but together with you. We recognize that we're now part of something larger than ourselves. If accepted into the council, we wouldn't face these challenges alone, but with the wisdom of 17 civilizations who have already navigated what we're just beginning to understand." The chamber remained silent for long moments. Then Speaker Elindra did something unexpected. They stepped down from their platform and approached the humans directly. Up close, their form was even more ethereal, seeming almost translucent in places. "In 8,000 cycles," the speaker said, "since we instituted this question, we have received many answers. Some species presented elaborate technological controls. Others offered complex ethical frameworks or governmental systems." The speaker's light patterns formed what almost looked like a smile. Never has a species answered so simply, so fundamentally. Elindra turned to address the entire council. The humans recognize what many advanced civilizations forget, that no external control can replace internal connection. That survival depends not on restricting power, but on wielding it with collective responsibility. One by one, the council members indicated their votes. Some used gestures, others light signals or sounds. When the last vote was cast, Speaker Elindra faced the humans again. The Galactic Council welcomes Earth as its 18th member civilization. The journey home was filled with planning and preparation. The Council would send representatives to Earth to help humanity prepare for full integration into galactic society. There would be cultural exchanges, technological sharing, and educational programs, all carefully measured to help humans adapt without being overwhelmed. As their shuttle approached Earth, giving them their first glimpse of home in weeks, the three delegates stood together at the viewing portal. "It's strange," Olivia said quietly. "We went out there to prove we were advanced enough to join them. In the end, we were accepted because we admitted we're still learning." Daniel nodded. "And because we understood that the real power isn't in technology. It's in unity." Maya watched the blue planet growing larger, thinking of the 7 billion people who would soon learn they were part of something much bigger than themselves. "Together," she repeated softly. Such a simple word for such a profound concept. The Earth turned below them, its nations and borders invisible from space, just as they would soon become less important in a future where humanity took its place among the stars. Not as conquerors or victims, but as partners. Together. The return to Earth marked not the end, but the beginning of humanity's greatest transformation. As the alien shuttle descended through the atmosphere, Maya, Daniel, and Olivia could see the massive crowds gathered below. From their vantage point, the assembled humans looked like a single organism pulsing with anticipation. "They have no idea how much everything is about to change," Daniel said quietly. The shuttle landed in the same Australian outback location where they had departed weeks earlier. When the door opened, the three delegates stepped out into the bright sunlight and deafening cheers of the crowd. Behind them came Speaker Elindra and representatives from 3 other council species, the first aliens to set foot on Earth soil. President Foster approached with a delegation of world leaders. For a moment, he simply stared at the alien visitors, then recovered his composure and stepped forward. "On behalf of all humanity, welcome to Earth," he said, his voice carried by thousands of speakers and broadcast to billions watching worldwide. Speaker Elindra's form shimmered in the sunlight. "We come in friendship to welcome Earth as the newest member of the Galactic Council." The celebrations lasted for days. In every city across the planet, people filled the streets, strangers embracing as borders and old conflicts suddenly seemed meaningless in the face of humanity's new place in the cosmos. But the real work was just beginning. 6 months later, Olivia stood in the newly constructed Galactic Embassy in Geneva, watching as alien engineers installed technology beyond human understanding. The embassy would serve as Earth's primary connection point to the wider galactic community until humans develop their own interstellar capabilities. "Still can't believe it sometimes?" asked Maya, joining her by the window. Olivia smiled. "I was just thinking about that night at the lunar array when the first signal came through, how terrified and excited I was. And now look at us." Below them, human and alien scientists worked side by side. Medical teams were already implementing treatments that had eliminated diseases thought incurable. Engineers were adapting clean energy technologies that would end Earth's climate crisis within a decade. Daniel entered the room, now wearing the uniform of the newly formed Earth Defense and Exploration Fleet. "The Council mentors say we're progressing faster than any species they've ever integrated," he reported. "Because we're doing it together," Maya replied. "Just like we promised." Not everything was easy. Some groups protested against alien influence. Religious organizations struggled to incorporate the new reality into their worldviews. Nations argued over access to new technologies and alien representatives. But for each problem, the Council's guidance proved invaluable. They had seen it all before, helping 17 other species navigate the challenges of joining a galactic community. 1 year after first contact, the delegates stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, Earth's first orbital platform built with alien assistance. Below them, their home planet shone blue and green against the darkness of space. "The Council is impressed with our progress," Maya said. "They've moved up the timeline for our first extrasolar colony." Daniel nodded. "Alpha Centauri. Can you believe it? Humans will be a multi-star species within 5 years." "What impresses them most isn't our scientific progress," Olivia added. "It's how we started resolving our internal conflicts. Global poverty down 30%, war zones reduced by half, environmental restoration accelerating worldwide." Maya smiled. "Because we finally understand what's at stake and what's possible when we work." Together, they finished in unison. As night fell across the side of Earth visible below them, the planet's cities glowed with light, but now those lights were joined by new ones: the orbiting research stations, construction platforms, and the first frames of what would become humanity's interstellar vessels. In just 1 year, humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe. The journey ahead would have challenges, but they would face them the same way they had answered the Council's final question. Together,